We also want to share our disclaimer. This session is intended to be informational and educational and does not constitute legal, medical, or financial advice. Consult your legal, healthcare, or financial advisor for advice regarding your personal situation. AARP is not responsible for the consequences of any decisions or actions taken in reliance upon or as a result of the information provided during this event. So, home fit for the holidays. Today, we are joined by two home safety experts, Andrew Mersman and Rachel Stone. Andrew Mersman is a fire and burn prevention educator and volunteer for the Elisa Ann Rush Burn Foundation, helping spread the word about fire safety. He wrote and developed the foundation's Senior Prevention and Risk Conversations, SPARK, safety program for aging adults, as well as safety education programs for small children and people of all ages. When he's not talking about smoke alarms and safety, he is an author and hypnotherapist and life coach based in the South Bay area of Los Angeles. Our other guest, our presenter, Rachel Stone, is an associate director for advocacy and community engagement with AARP California. She's based in the Pasadena office. Over the last 8 years with the organization, Rachel has brought educational workshops about making your home safe as you age to thousands of people across Los Angeles and beyond. And if Rachel looks a little familiar to you, you might recognize her from past Caring for Your Fur Family as You Age, which a presentation I thoroughly enjoyed. Another workshop she leads where she dives into the topic of older adult pet ownership as well as special considerations for older animals. Welcome, Andrew and Rachel. Tell us how to stay home fit for the holidays. Andrew?
Well, thank you so much. It's fantastic to be here this morning. And the fact that you all took some time out of your morning to talk about, feeling comfortable at home is super important. It's everybody, especially around this time of year, has added stress and added things that they're considering. And to feel a little safer at home just makes the holiday flow a little more smoothly. And I've got a phrase I use in life about you don't have to feel bad to find ways to feel better. It applies to safety too. You don't have to be unsafe to find some ways to be safer. And hopefully we'll share some of those today, affirming great decisions that you're already making and maybe a few discoveries to look around your own house by.
Thanks, Andrew. And I want to make sure everyone can see the slides that I'm sharing. If I could get a thumbs up there. Awesome. Well, like Andrew said, we are here to talk about home fit for the holidays. And I also want to echo just appreciation for taking time out of the busy holiday season. I'm sure everyone is wrapping up work, getting gifts ready, welcoming, guests to their homes. So it means a lot that you're here with us today. And during this presentation, Andrew and I are going to share important information about how to walk through different areas of your home and identify what may need to be changed in order to remain there safely and stay independent, especially during the busy holiday season. And we'll also have a special focus today on burn prevention and fire safety, as the holidays do pose unique risks as well as unique opportunities to address this issue. There will be plenty of opportunities for questions at the end of the presentation, but you're more than welcome to share them in the chat at any time. So if everyone is ready, we'll get started. So we'll just start with some resources that are available to you. If you go to aarp.org/homefit, you can view our 36-page fully illustrated room-by-room guide that provides more than 100 tips to help you live safely and comfortably in your existing home. And I should note that's available in multiple languages. You can either order a free copy to be delivered to your home or download a PDF version. I like it because the hard copy version has some pages you can actually tear out, take with you to the hardware store, checklists you can walk around your home with. It's pretty awesome. And then I do also want to strongly encourage you to check out Spark, Senior Prevention and Risk Conversations on the Alyssa Ann Roosh Burn Foundation website at AARBF.org. And that gives great insights into burn prevention and fire safety for seniors in particular. So we're going to move through the home room by room, but let's start first with the exterior. And feel free to put in the chat if you recognize which movie this image is from. But whether your residence is a house or an apartment, whether you own or rent, keep in mind the exterior should be free of clutter, protected from the elements, well lit, and have an accessible entrance. So there may come a time where stairs pose a challenge, and there's a lot of different options, both temporary and permanent, for alternative step entries. So if you can't achieve what we call a zero-step entryway, there are still measures you can take to make the steps safer for everyone in your home. You want to make sure that the stairs are well lit, free from obstructions, and like you can see in the lower right-hand corner, in the lower left, are railings on both sides. And you also ideally want to have railings extend past the last step to ensure a safe transition. And another thing you want to consider is perhaps you need a home elevator or a stair chairlift. And we do want to acknowledge those aren't inexpensive options, but they can be a better and more affordable choice than relocating. I also want to point out what we call walker steps. That's what you're seeing in the lower right-hand corner. Those shallower, lower steps that are, let's see, they're about 22 inches deep and 4 inches high, and their design is meant for those who use a walker or a cane to more easily and safely utilize steps. Those can also be a good alternative to ramps. And speaking of ramps, there's such a wide variety of options in the lower left and middle photo. You can see temporary options for ramps. Most important thing is to make sure that they are appropriate for the height of the step and the angle of the step. So you may want to have one that has kind of a lip over it, like you're seeing in the bottom middle, to make sure you have a smooth transition as you're going through the doorway. But you can also see a great temporary option in the upper left that is one that's actually portable. So you can actually fold it up and take it with you places. So again, we're talking about temporary and permanent options, but one thing I want you to consider, not only on this slide, but for a lot of what we're going to be talking about, is much of this is considered medical equipment. So be sure to talk to your physician if you think some of these items would be helpful around the home, and that will help you with working with your insurance provider and Medicare to see what home accessibility items may be partially or fully covered, and will also, of course, help you cut down on the cost. And one last note, I know I mentioned this presentation is meant for both homeowners and those who rent. If you do rent, do know that if you have accessible home items that are helping you stay safer around the home, are a medical or physical necessity, there is some legal obligation that your landlord has to allow you to have these in the home. So that goes for ramps, it goes for grip bars. And if you're nervous about having that conversation with your landlord, I would talk to your doctor first. So there's some documentation around that. Staying with the exterior of the home, of course, we want you to have a peephole on your exterior door, but you want to make sure the peephole is at a height that's suitable for both you and anyone else in the home. So if you have children or someone in a wheelchair who's at a lower height, consider installing the peephole lower down on the door. But of course, video doorbell cameras like Ring or Nest have become a very popular alternative to the traditional peephole. And a large part of that reason is it can integrate with an app on your phone. This really does help provide peace of mind when you're away. You can share video viewing privileges with others. You can speak to people through the doorbell. Um, know that there are many brands available. AARP doesn't recommend a particular one, but we do have a lot of information. If you just type in AARP doorbell camera, lots of kind of pro and con lists will pop up. So just be careful to review the requirements for each, the features for each, and make sure that they're compatible with both your home and whatever phone that you may have. And lighting is crucial in all areas of the home. So outside the home, you may want to consider adding automatic or motion sensor lights to your home's exterior, especially by walkways and over your stairs if you have them, and above your door. Installing sensors so that an outdoor light will automatically turn off at dusk and off at dawn, and when motion is detected, is really a great idea and very convenient. Um, there are options for both battery operated ones, solar powered ones, and lights that are hardwired in. So figure out what system works best for you. If it is something that you're going to have hardwired in, you may want to hire a professional to do that. And we'll talk in a little bit about how to identify people who are trustworthy and skilled to come into your home and install things like that. I always like to give a shout out. In the bottom left is an automatic plug-in emergency nightlight and flashlight. You can keep those anywhere in the home. They make a great stocking stuffer. And what I love about them is they will automatically detect a power outage and turn on if a power outage is noted. You can pull it out of the wall and carry it around like a flashlight. So just a very simple and easy tool to have on hand. And then lastly, your home address should be clear and easy to read. And that is not just so Santa can find your house, but so if you're in the unfortunate situation where emergency services needs to be called, they would be able to identify your address as quickly as possible. So I recommend look at your street address at different times of day and night to make sure it's fully visible and lit enough, and also from different angles depending on where a car might be approaching your home from. And here is a very easy start to making your home fit. If you're looking for kind of DIY projects, you might want to update your doorknob to an easy to use lever style handle. And that's what you're seeing pictured on the slide here. I like these because they don't require as much grip strength. So if you have mobility challenges, if you have arthritis, it can be hard to kind of put your hand on a doorknob and apply the grip that's necessary to turn it. So a lever door handle is something you can just easily press down and up on, very simple, and they tend to be a standardized size. So you should be able to pick one up at your local hardware store and install it fairly easily. There are also, of course, better security options for lever door style handles for the exterior of your home uh, that you want to make sure there's a keyed door lock if possible. And you may have already hung your holiday lights, or you might be planning to soon. So I'll just start with a reminder that if you absolutely have to go up on a ladder, the ladder should be a stable A-frame ladder. That's the one you're seeing in the photo here. It should never be propped up against something else, but you should always have a second person there with you, not just as extra cushioning in case you should fall, but to provide extra steadying at the base of the ladder, and also, of course, to be able to call for help should the worst happen. But of course, with hanging lights does come additional fire safety concerns. So, Andrew, I'll turn to you to talk about that.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Yeah, you showed all kinds of great ways about getting into our home. And I just want to pop a little reminder in for folks that in addition to getting into our home for safety, especially in a fire emergency, we also want to make sure that we've done the thinking ahead of time for ways to get out of our home. If the front door is blocked by fire or something else that obstructs the way, you always want to make sure that you have two ways out. And if you think about it ahead of time, then if your adrenaline is pumping because there is a little bit of a crisis, you'll already have that thinking done ahead of time and know how to get out of our home safely. And when it comes to decorations, if you've already put them up, that ship might have already sailed for this year. Or if you're doing it this weekend and it's coming up soon, promise me, hand on your heart, that you will check the cords. A frayed cord is a non-starter. It cannot go up on your home. This image here that shows the casing, the plastic casing on the outside of the cord has been compromised, and the inner wires where electricity travels have been exposed. Put that outside in a wet environment or next to plants and things where there's possibly flammability issues, and that's automatically a crisis ready to happen. So they have to go out the door. It's easy to find lights this time of year if you're going to replace them. Think about that ahead of time. Don't say, I'll get to it next year. Handle it this year. Don't put those up on your house, inside or outside. And those plugs that are showing on this slide here are a fantastic thing that a lot of us probably do. We gang them up, right? We plug one into the end of the other, to the other, to the other. Make miles and miles of lights to go across our home, make it across the in front of the front door and around all the windows and everything else, which is a little better these days if you have LED lights. LED lights are the newer technology. They're cool to the touch. They don't give off a lot of heat. And that's really, if you don't remember what you bought specifically, that's the real clue there. If they're cool to the touch, they tend to allow, and there will be directions, if we read all the fine print on the tags and the labels, there will be directions how many you can chain together to make a long, long daisy chain. And with the LED lights, they're lower voltage. You can add more to a line, but don't start adding them up if the lights themselves feel warm to the touch, inside or outside. You don't want to stack end to end to end to end, many, many, many strings of lights. Stick to just one or two, and then you got to find another plug for another one. And do not please run giant long extension cords with connections all over the yard and across the roof and up over the windows in the garage. Make sure that everything is plugged directly into the sources, even if that means you might have to modify your design for some exterior stuff. So newer lights, LED, cool to the touch, much better option. And it's hard to even find the old incandescent ones anymore, but if you still got them, and if they get warm, you have to keep an extra eye on those. Those require extra safety. And also on trees, on a natural tree, it requires more attention.
Thanks, Andrew. These are great reminders. All right, so we've talked a bit about the exterior. Now let's move into the home, and let's start with one of the most popular rooms in the house, especially around the holidays, the kitchen. So I want to start by talking about the microwave, which ideally will be at counter level rather than above your stove. Even though it can be convenient for saving space, it can become difficult if you have any arm limitations and lifting dishes up and down. And Andrew will touch on this as well, but if you're lifting something down from the microwave that's very hot, that does pose a scalding risk. So what we recommend, if at all possible, is to have your microwave at counter height. So whatever you're taking out of the microwave, you're not having to lift above you and bring it down. It's right at ideally kind of your hip height. Um, if you have to have a microwave that is higher up, which sometimes there's just not the counter space, or maybe you have a home where the microwave is built in, you want to make sure that it is professionally mounted into the wall. That middle photo that's X'd out, two things going on with this. One, at least for those here in California, we live in earthquake country and the microwave is very heavy. So we want to make sure it's not at risk of the shelf collapsing below it. And again, it makes it even more unstable if you're trying to get something hot out of the microwave and again poses a real scalding risk. Another really easy fix is to look at what kind of handles you have around your home and swap them out for what we call D-shaped poles and handles. The reason we recommend this is, as you can see in that upper right-hand photo, it poses a real risk if you have a long scarf on or maybe headphone wires that you snag yourself accidentally on an open-ended door handle, and that poses a fall risk. So the D-shaped handles mitigate that completely. They're pretty much a standardized size, so very easy swap to make all around your home. But Andrew, the kitchen is a high safety risk area. So what other safety concerns do you think we should really keep in mind for the kitchen?
Yeah, Rachel, there's so much that goes on in the kitchen when we think about safety in our home, especially looking through the lens of fire and burn safety. So there's basically three ways in general that most people might have a burn injury. There are more than three, but the three main ones are fire and flame, steam and scald, or contact burns. Contact burn meaning touching something hot and that burns you and causes an injury. So if you think about the kitchen, there's a lot of possibilities for fire and flame, right? A lot of us have gas or propane or even electric stoves that have the hot coils. You want to make sure, never fails, at the holidays, if you're hosting, everybody's going to congregate in the kitchen, right? They always do. It's the center. It's everybody gathers in the kitchen. They make it crowded, and you're trying to cook and handle things, and you got to elbow people out of the way and tell the kids to scram and get the dog out of the way and all those kinds of things. Make sure that you give yourself, you honor your process enough if you are the host and you're in the kitchen, that you create a 3-foot safety zone around a stove area. No kids, no pets, a big circular safety zone around that to keep everything away from where there might be either fire and flame. Also, pot handles, turn them to the back or to the side because little kids reaching up, grabbing a pot handle can be a disaster. It's like they pull something down onto themselves. So you just want to make sure that you have a sensibility of your safety, which then means that your guests, your family, your friends, all of your loved ones are also safe. So a 3-foot safety zone around the cooking area. And that also includes other things that are flammable, not just people. Rachel talked about the kind of handles if you're wearing a scarf. Well, we think we're putting on our best. We're entertaining for the holidays. You might have flowing sleeves or a baggy sweater or a big old flowing ugly sweater from the ugly sweater contest that you're doing, or whatever that is. Those don't belong around the stove. You need to be cooking around the stove in short sleeves or tight fitting sleeves. No flowing stuff that can waft across pots, pans, and open flames. Also, you want to keep away the things that we use for cooking: wooden spoons, recipe cards, printed out recipe pages, cookbooks. All those things that are flammable need a good, safe distance away from where the flames themselves happen. So keep fire and burn potential really well under control so that nothing gets out of control. Somebody talked about fire blankets, which is a beautiful thing. They're relatively new and a great gift for people as well. It's a very heavy, inflammable blanket that if you had a fire, like in this slide on the stove, you drop it from above gently so it doesn't make flame burst out. If there's a grease fire as well, you don't want it to burst out from under. Drop it over, it smothers the flame really quite quickly. A fire blanket is a great tool to have in your kitchen. They hang up inside a cabinet door or just inside a pantry. They're easy to get to. You pull them and drop them over a flame, especially great for stovetop fires. Um, Rachel mentioned the microwave, which is such an important part. This is where we talk about steam and scald, right? This is our tea and coffee Tuesday morning. We think about tea, we think about coffee, we think about hot cocoa at the holidays, things that but also cup of soup or casseroles or anything that you're heating up. You definitely don't want to pull from above you, like she said. Pull from below eye level. So you make sure that your microwave is a place that you can get into easily. And use hot pads. Hot pads are your friend. We get a little fooled into thinking that the food in a microwave is cool and it's cool to touch when you grab something, and then 3 steps away that heat starts to permeate the container and you're like, oh gosh, here I am stuck. Add to that crowds in the kitchen, and you can't necessarily get to the table or the countertop that you wanted to put that hot thing down on. So use hot pads, make more trips if necessary. If your grip needs a little extra strength or it's not what it used to be, make more trips, get people out of the way, say there's hot food coming through, and make sure people clear the way for you. Don't risk, okay, I can just make it a few more steps and it starts to burn through. I pulled my sleeves long to try and grab something because I was trying to get something out of the microwave. Set yourself up for success and use hot pads or oven mitts. There's also a photo on here of cords. So kitchen appliances can sometimes be super frustrating because they have those short little cords from the manufacturer, right? And those are often the heat generating cords for those kind of appliances. That's your hot pot, your instant pot, your crock pot, all the pots that have the short cords. There's a toaster here, toaster ovens, air fryers. There's a reason that short cord is there. It has to be a short cord. The manufacturer did that on purpose. It plugs directly into the wall, not into extension cords, not into power strips. Short cord is on purpose. If it's a heat generating appliance, it cannot also draw off of an extension cord, sharing that load with a lot of other things. It'll overheat that load. So you just want to make sure that you really respect the short cord. It's there on purpose. It's not meant to be extended so that you can put something off way away from the electrical cord, plugged directly into the wall. And you think about contact burns. Again, hot pads and oven mitts are your friend. Don't let yourself get burned by the contact of a hot pot on the stove or a skillet, or the hot things that you're serving in, especially at the holidays, because we might be serving extra places, right? We need to spread out. We got a lot of dishes. We created a buffet on a counter over here. We put extra things on the dining room table. Really just know that heat needs to be respected. One last thing about contact burns or any kind of burn in the household, if it's treatable and it doesn't need medical attention, something that a lot of us learned incorrectly as kids, and I want to correct right here, never, ever, ever put ice on a burn. It's your first instinct. You're like, oof, that's hot. I want to get it as cool as possible. Ice will cause more tissue damage. It causes more harm than good. And no butter, no lotion, no coconut oil, nothing goes on a burn except cool water. It can be cool water from the tap. It can be flowing water. It could be I put my hand in a bowl or a pot of cold water if a burn was on my hand. But cool water is the only thing to treat a treatable at-home medical burn situation that doesn't require medical attention, might even be blistering, might be a really bad burn. Many of us have probably had them, but cool water, never, ever, ever ice. It causes more harm than good. And I know I'm going long on this, but the one thing I also want to add is fire extinguishers, right? So fire extinguishers in the home are a great addition and a really important safety consideration. And the kitchen is one of the places that a fire extinguisher does the most good. There's two kinds of fire extinguishers, for the most part, certified fire extinguishers for your home, and they have different codes to them. So an ABC code, which is on the certified label on the fire extinguisher, is pretty much multi-use. It can go anywhere in the house. So you want to have one near the kitchen. You also want to have one if you have multi-story, at least one on every floor of your home. That includes a basement, if you have a using basement, a functional basement space, but at least one fire extinguisher, ABC type, on every floor of the homes, and where you can grab it, mount it on the wall, easy to find, grab it and use it. In the kitchen, the code is K for kitchen, and that's usable on a grease fire. Nothing else can be used on a grease fire. No water, no foam from a fire extinguisher, nothing liquid at all. The K is powder, and it won't spread grease because water hits grease and it explodes and spreads so quickly. Really dangerous to ever let water get on a grease fire. So K for the kitchen, ABC for the other places in your home. And then here's some more letters to think about. PASS, PASS. It's really the way that you use a fire extinguisher. And if you haven't used it before, it's okay. It's quite simple. It's much easier than we think it's going to be. PASS. P stands for pull. Pull the pin. There's a pin that is kind of keeps it from accidentally discharging. You pull the pin out, simple to pull. It's not going to be tight. You don't have to wiggle it or yank it or drag it out of the thing. It's just right there in the front at the top where you have the squeeze nozzle. So P for pull the pin, A for aim. You aim at the base of the fire, not the top of the flames. In this photo here, you would be aiming down at the stove burners, the base of the flame, never at the top, where the fuel is, where it's burning from at the bottom. S, the first S is for squeeze. You squeeze the lever. They are not super hard. It doesn't require radical grip strength. You squeeze it while you're holding the hose and aiming at the base of the fire. And the other S is for sweep. So you don't just point in one direction, you sweep across facing at the base of the fire. PASS, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep is the best way to use a fire extinguisher at home.
Thank you, Andrew. I recently moved, and this is giving me some real food for thought, no pun intended, for my fire safety in the kitchen. And I do think I'm going to be moving uh, the fire blanket up my to buy list.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue through the home and let's take a look at the living room and some transitional spaces. But let's do a little I Spy activity first. So take a moment to look at this picture and share in the chat any safety risks that you notice, anything that's really jumping out to you. I'll give you guys just a moment to look this lovely holiday photo over. All right, we got some eagle eyes with Vince here. Yes, the chair is in front of the exit door. I see open fireplace and stockings, no visible fire extinguishers. Very true. These are all excellent observations. And just to talk about this really quickly, because this may be one of the times where you have a very full living room, lots of clutter on the floor. So, a couple things that you'll want to do. First of all, when you know you're going to have a lot of guests over, really think through what your seating options are. Of course, kids want to sit on the floor, that's fine, but there needs to be enough space to safely move between everyone. And ideally, all chairs are away from exits. We can see here there's folding chairs, totally understandable. That may be the best option if you have a large group, but they are easy to tip over. So ideally, folding chair would be placed up against a wall so that it has a little more stability. You can also see here, Vince also noted, a lot of clutter on the floor. Try to have a designated area for all the stuff. If gifts are open, put wrapping paper in a trash bag right away, anything that minimizes the risk of falling by tripping over something. You can see here that table has very sharp corners. That poses a risk. Uh, Also, if you're sitting on the couch, maybe drinking some hot chocolate, you want to have free and clear space where you can put that hot item so you're not forced to kind of hold it. Again, like Andrew was talking about, hot liquids pose a scalding risk. And then someone did note the stockings over the fireplace. They look so beautiful, but they do pose a fire risk. So ideally, the stockings will either be over a non-lit fireplace or maybe placed elsewhere while the fire is going.
I'm going to jump in with some stuff because I super notice in that photo all kinds of
Please
things
do, yeah.
that give me a little heartburn. So I love a natural tree. I really love the smell in the room. I don't love the danger risk that it poses, right? A natural tree in your home. And I recently saw a poll that says like 84% of people in America are now going with artificial trees. But if you're still a holdout, like I am going to be, I'm going to go with this weekend and look for a natural tree. But it's like a cut flower, right? And none of us would expect a cut flower to last in a vase on the dining room table or on the sideboard for 3 weeks plus. Because why? It gets dried out. No matter how much water is in the bowl, no matter how much water is in your tree, it gets dried out. It dies. And the more dry a natural tree is, or boughs and garlands across the mantle, or on walkways and things like that. All that natural stuff, so full of sap. Pine is so flammable and full of sap, and it dries and dries and dries and becomes more and more flammable. So good distance away from the fireplace. that somebody noticed. And of course, the stockings, as they also noticed, take them down if you're going to have a fire in the fireplace. Put them back up when the fireplace is cool, when the firebox is no longer, the next morning. Get them up in the morning for Santa Claus, but when you put a fire in, you light a fire in the afternoon, get them away from in front of the firebox. And it's great for fireplace safety year round, right? Fires are lovely, cozy, add a lot of ambiance to a party or just to when we're trying to get cuddly and cozy at home. But a fireplace is a really specific spot for open flames to be. So we want to make sure that the grate is closed, whether that's a chainmail curtain that closes, whether it's glass doors, whatever it is, it stays closed. Unless you're adding logs, you open it briefly for that period of time and close it again. No gaps so that sparks could potentially pop out. Always closed. Again, just like in the kitchen, that 3-foot barrier around a stove, same thing for the fireplace, especially for kids. It's fascinating to reach out and touch glass doors that are flickering, right? But oof, that is an injury waiting to happen. So don't let kids and pets get close to the fireplace. Same thing with candles. This time of year, we might light a lot more candles. They read holiday for so many of us. For no matter what your holiday is, there's a lot of candles involved at this time of year for a lot of people. Kids and pets away from candles, not on low coffee tables where a tail might wag across the top or a kitty cat jumps up on top of the table or something. No candles on those low levels, and candles throughout the rest of the house. Don't ever leave the room if they're burning. Blow them out. You can always relight them, but blow them out if you need to. Do not leave a lit candle in a room that you are not in or somebody is not in. Lit candles, candle safety is a year-round concern, but especially this time of year because so many of us have so many more of them. Another thing to think about is, as Rachel said, if you've got a crowd, not everybody's got access to a side table. There's no, let me wiggle past you with my coffee mug of steaming hot coffee, and I'm going to wiggle past, I'm going to sit over here, I'm going to just balance it on my hand or on the arm of the couch. Flat, hard surface. Flat, hard surface for hot things. Don't try and have something balanced because that tips and goes into your lap or underneath you, and you're not going to be able to get up fast enough. Don't put yourself in that position. Think about it ahead of time. Add an extra side table, still allowing flow of traffic, but you got to have a strong, hard surface for any kind of hot liquids, no matter how cozy and heartwarming they might be. That they're only supposed to stay in the mug or in your body and not spilling all over the place. So you just want to make sure that you've got that kind of space and flow that is always all over the place in your house the rest of the year. And even if you've got extra bodies, you just want to make sure that everybody has their eye on safety so you don't have to ruin your holidays.
So transitional spaces in the home are hallways, stairs, and one again, easy solution for home safety is to make sure that they're properly lit because good lighting can prevent a fall. It may be the case that the only lighting available is lighting from above, and you want to make sure that there's also lighting at a lower level so that at night you're not fully in shadow. So if you look down at your feet, they're not in shadow from only having a light above you. And we know not everyone can hardwire in lights all over their hallways and stairs. So there are practical, easy solutions like what you're seeing in that animation right there. That is LED motion sensor strip lighting. So it's almost like an LED tape that you can put along the base of your stairwell or hallway, and it will actually light up as it detects you moving. You also want to have, of course, light switches at each end of the stairs and halls, so you're not shuffling in the dark to try to find that light switch. So again, some easy solutions where you want to really look at the lighting situation. But also in a lot of hallways, a lot of stairwells, these transitional spaces are smoke alarms, which I'll have Andrew talk about.
Yep, it's the holidays. It's the end of 2025. One of the categories of gifts so many of us are giving and getting is technology, right? We might be getting things that have chargers. We want to make sure that we are charging safe. We have extra guests in the house. Don't let them charge a phone under a pillow or slipping between couch cushions. We want to make sure that our charging awareness, especially with lithium ion batteries, which get super overheated, We're just aware of how we're charging technology. But my favorite piece of technology is a smoke alarm. It's a really important piece of technology that we all have in our homes. So for the last 10 years or so, very few of them still have the old 9-volt batteries, those rectangular batteries. Most of them are now 10-year batteries, and many of them are already hardwired in. All new construction has hardwired smoke alarms. But their job is just to wake you up or alert you if there's smoke in the room. Where there's smoke, often there is fire, not automatically, but often there is fire. And their job is to wake you up or grab your attention in a crisis situation that there's smoke in the room. They just alarm you to it. They don't put stuff out. You might have a sprinkler system in your home that's extra and fantastic, but really a smoke alarm is just to get you aware that you need to take action. And it doesn't work if you've knocked it down or pulled it down because you burned the roast, right? It doesn't work if you unplugged it or deactivated it. There's a deactivation switch. And it doesn't work if you haven't been testing it and if there are batteries replacing it. So if you do have the replaceable batteries, the 9-volt batteries, those get replaced twice a year when your clocks change, spring forward, fall back for daylight savings time. Each time that clock changes, replace those 9-volt batteries and test it at least once a month. We all know what that button sounds like. We've all probably had it go off when something went off in the kitchen or went badly in the kitchen. If you take it down to deactivate it because you're embarrassed or you're upset or there was a little fire that you already put out, but there's still smoke in the room, it must go back up before you sit down to eat. It must go back up as soon as you've opened the windows and cleared the space. Do not leave a smoke alarm down or deactivate it, especially near the kitchen where there's so much danger potentially for fire risk. So always activate it, always test it on a regular basis. They are required with all new construction. They're all, and best case scenario, if you have older construction or you haven't remodeled or done anything permitting recently for your own best practices, at least one on every floor outside of or just inside of sleeping quarters and one near the kitchen. It doesn't have to be right over the stove because it'll get too sensitive, but near the kitchen because that smoke, determining that smoke is a really important step. You don't want to short circuit that in any way. There are also, for those of us who might have some hearing issues or our hearing is declining or we're hearing impaired, there are other forms of smoke alarms that we can have in our home. One is a strobe light, so it'll also kind of pop through our awareness potentially if we're not sound asleep. There are also high-low tone versions so that some audibility tends to break through with whatever our hearing situation is. And there's also a bed shaker version that'll communicate through Bluetooth wirelessly to the smoke alarm on the wall. There's a little disc that slips either under your pillow or under your mattress, and it vibrates and it'll wake you out of even the most sound sleep if you need to be awakened to get out of your home to safety because there's smoke present in the room. So never deactivate the smoke alarm, even if it's in the middle of a party and you need to take it down just for the screeching to stop for a couple of minutes. Make sure you put it back up before you sit down to eat.
Thanks, Andrew. And I know we're running a little short on time. I want to make sure we have a chance to get to the questions. So I'm just going to quickly go through the rest of this presentation, and we can stay on a few minutes after, of course, if you have any more questions we don't get to. But for stairs, both inside and outside your home, you really want to make sure that they're as safe as possible. Again, we recommend having bars on either side of the stairs, making sure they're at an appropriate height for everyone in the home. We want to make sure that they're not slippery. So lots of different stairs have lots of different options for both permanent and temporary non-slip options. I want to call out this one in the middle, which is one of, again, those easy DIY kind of projects you can take on. That is grip tape. You can get it at any local hardware store. It's meant for exterior stairs. It has almost like a sandpaper texture to it. And it also has a reflective strip. So it is water resistant and it just helps you gain some traction on exterior stairs, especially if they were to get wet. And it's probably no surprise that the most dangerous room in the house is the bathroom, and that's due to the combination of slippery floors and wet surfaces. Grab bars are one of the things we get asked about the most. We absolutely recommend not only you have one, but you have multiple grab bars at different locations around your bathroom. So if you have a large shower or bathtub, think about different locations within there that you might, if you were to slip and fall, you automatically grab the first thing you can. So are there enough at different heights and locations in your bathroom to make sure that you have something immediately to grab onto if you can start to feel yourself fall? I do want to call out the two X'd out pictures. So in the bottom, we have a suction cup grab bar. We do not recommend those because they can easily pull off of the wall. When moisture collects behind the suction cup, they're just not steady enough. And a towel rod is not a grab bar. Not only can you accidentally grab the towel instead of the bar and the towel comes off, a towel bar is not properly installed to hold your weight. So if you're going down, it's likely going down with you. So if you need to install grab bars, I recommend consulting with an expert who's a certified aging in place specialist, which we'll talk about in just a moment what that means. But they can make sure not only is it at an appropriate height, but it's properly installed. Very quickly, consider raising the height of your toilet to a more comfortable height. There are both permanent and temporary solutions. You also can install kind of more unusual shaped grab bars depending on the layout of your bathroom. Wall mounted grab bars or those that are solely mounted on the wall just might not make practical sense. So you can have some that are more L shaped that can be installed both the floor and the wall. But bathrooms also pose some unique and year-round safety risks in terms of hot items and lots of things that are plugged in the bathroom. So, Andrew, do you want to touch on those?
Yeah, I'm going to go real quick. So for fire injury in the bathroom, we don't think about it, right? It's wet, but there is actually a lot. And in this first photo here with those coils, some of us have installed in the wall heaters in our bathrooms that get hot like a toaster. Looks like toaster coils, right? If you have that, or if you use a space heater, as so many of us do in the bathroom, no towels, no robes, no clothes that you're changing out of, no clothes that you're going to change into within 3 feet of those direct heat sources. Keep a good distance. No towels or robes hanging over or above a space heater or an installed wall heater. It can become dangerous very, very quickly. For scald injuries, steam and scald injuries, there's a photo there of the hot water heater. Whether you have a tank hot water heater like in the picture or tankless hot water on demand, check the temperature. The temperature of your hot water for your whole house should never be more than 120 degrees Fahrenheit. 120 degrees is more than hot enough to cut the grease on your dishes, more than hot enough to get your clothes clean, more than hot enough to get your body clean, but not so hot that it'll cause an injury if somehow you slipped or fell in the shower and the water was still pouring on you. You'd be surprised how many older adults show up in burn units and hospital emergency rooms because of scald injuries just from the hot water in their own shower. And you test it just like you used to test baby formula inside of your wrist. If you're at a hotel or you're a guest at somebody else's home, pop the inside of your wrist into the water stream before you put your whole body in it. And if it's not comfortable there, it's too hot. Change the temperature of your water. Change the temperature of your water heater permanently at home, no more than 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And if it just has a low, medium, and high, medium is your safe space. Medium is where you want to be for your heater, both a direct gas or tank water heater. And then that picture down in the lower left, so important, right? All those hair tools, especially this time of year, you're entertaining, you want to look your best, but a curling iron can get to be 470 degrees Fahrenheit. Wildly hot tool. Hair dryers, rollers, crimpers, all those things. You can tell I use them all the time myself. You just want to make sure that you don't stop. Oh, the Amazon delivery just came to the door. I'm just going to put it down and run and grab a package. Nope, unplug it. Don't ever put it down on top of a hand towel. Don't ever put it near anything that is flammable. Don't drop it in a drawer where you keep things while it's still hot. You turn it on, it gets super heated. When you turn it off, it doesn't cool down immediately. It takes a little bit of time to cool it down. Unplug between every use and do not put it near anything flammable while it's still emanating a ton of heat. And it emanates a ton of heat.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm embarrassed to admit that could be a photo of my own hair tool drawer. So note to self, got to work on that one. Our last slide today just addresses some of the professionals that you may work with as you go through this journey of making your home a safer place to be. So you might work with an occupational therapist, and that, much like a physical therapist, is someone who can lead you through exercises, but an occupational therapist will also come to your home. They may also come to your work and really assess the space that you're in. They'll measure doorways, they'll look at the configuration of your home, and they can make professional recommendations about fixes or changes you make to make your home a bit safer for you. So that's something you want to speak to your physician about if you think an occupational therapist would be helpful. Then I mentioned certified aging in place specialist. That's a CAP certification. And that's just a professional. It may be a contractor, an architect, but it's someone who has been professionally trained to help someone remain in their home safely and independently. It's a official certification process that you have to go through. And it's fairly easy to find a CAP specialist. There's a database kept by the National Association of Home Builders of CAP specialists. You can just Google your city, your area, and then put CAP specialist, and a list will pop up. And I should mention that occupational therapists often are also CAP certified. So with that, that concludes our presentation, and I could see some really interesting questions coming through the chat, and we have a couple minutes to address those.
Thank you so much, Andrew and Rachel. Joyce, do we have a couple quick questions for
Yeah, this is a
presenters?
quick one. This is a quick one that I don't think you quite answered, and that's regarding oxygen. If people have, oxygen considerations or breathing supporting situations, how can you help best them address the issue when it's holiday time? Because you still want to have holiday time, but then you also want to take care of your loved ones.
You betcha. What a fantastic question, right? And if you're an oxygen user, or if you're a family member or a loved one who's close by with oxygen users who are in your family, you've been given 1,000 warnings about this, right? But all the rest of the guests may not know that, and little kids may not know that, and pets don't know that. So obviously, one of the things about keeping a tank close to your body, if you're in a crowded room or around places, you don't want to make sure that that cord's dragged across where somebody can pop through it, running around, chasing each other, or something like that. And oxygen is highly, highly flammable. So you've already been told there's no smoking when you've got oxygen going. You know that you keep it away from fire sources. You know that you keep that highly flammable thing away from fire sources. Almost all oxygen tanks now have, and if yours doesn't, you can get it for about $2. And you can ask at the fire department. You can also find it on Amazon. There's a little valve that goes into the tube, and it's a one-way valve that if there is any heat detected, it's very simple technology. Like I said, it's about $2. Last time I looked, it was $1.88. And you put that in the tube, and it'll shut off the tank immediately. It is an automatic tank shut off based on registered higher levels of heat. It's a really good safety piece. It might already be built into your tank and tube setup, and if it's not, it's a really easy fix. You can add it right into that tube. It goes into the machine or into the tank, and the tube goes on the outside of it. It passes through normally in good times, and if there's high heat, it shuts it down automatically.
Wow, that's absolutely wonderful. First of all, I want to thank you for this presentation because you answered a lot of my questions before this time. But I still see a couple of questions regarding reusable blankets and fire extinguishers. And I know you went through specific details about all of the codes and et cetera. I'd never thought about all of those codes on the fire extinguisher. I'm thinking it's just whatever it means, but thank you again for that. But they also bring talking about reusable blankets or fire equipment that you've already used, but you want to try to use it again. What are
Yeah.
your takes on that?
So a fire blanket, like we talked about, which is specifically designed as a fire blanket. It's not a blanket off your bed. It is a fire blanket. It is a non-flammable, heavy, smothers a fire. The whole point, fire needs fuel and oxygen in order to survive and in order to grow. Without either fuel, you cut off the fuel or you cut off the oxygen and a fire goes out. So the blanket goes over a flame to smother a flame and puts it out. It is reusable if it's not burned through and badly damaged, but it would be reusable. But you're not going to want to try and put out a fire in your own home that's any larger than about the size of a waste can, right? If it gets larger than a skillet on the stove and you can slide the lid over the skillet, or if it gets larger than about the size of a waste can and you think you can handle it with a home fire extinguisher or a fire blanket, if it gets bigger than that, it's time to get out and get everybody else out of the house, get everybody outside, call 911 on the way, but get out of the house and explain the situation clearly. You've already got well-lit address numbers so people can find you, but don't try and be a hero. Be safe. Play it safe always. So if the fire gets bigger than about what I'm showing you right here in my hands, that's a 911 call.
Great, thank you. And just two more questions. So again, you've answered so many questions, but I just wanted to try to highlight it. A couple more. You had mentioned talking about hard wiring and batteries, and if they go out, and but then this question talks about, well, so what if the hard wire power shortage goes out? So what? So what do we do at that point?
Fantastic question. So it's 2025. The technology has caught up to some of the things, which is great. So a hardwired smoke alarm in your home does require the power from the house, right? And so the question is, if the power goes out, if you have a power outage, is that still going to tell me if there's fire or smoke in my house? And the answer is yes, there's a backup battery. Almost every hardwired smoke alarm, this is not a hardwired one, but it's got wires coming out, it's attached to the ceiling or high on the wall, but there is a backup battery, which is why you still test them once a month, because you always want to make sure, because this little device's job is to sound whether there's electricity flowing through those wires or not. Its job is to always be there to keep you safe. And there is a backup battery.
And that's why you mentioned if in fact there's a lot of smoke in your area and you take the battery out, make sure you put it back in. And the other thing is make sure you put it back in the right way. So once
Yeah.
you put it back in, test it to make sure that it's working right. Just don't take those batteries out and pop it back up there. It says it's working. It may
Yep.
not be. I know we're against the clock right now, but Rachel, is there something that you would possibly want to add along with Andrew before we close out?
Thank you, Joyce. You know what? We have covered a lot today. I have learned some things, and I'm just really thankful for everyone joining us today. And I think I'm good.
Okay, Andrew, any parting words? Because like I said, you both did a fantastic presentation. I was trying to take notes, but then every time I would scratch out the notes because I said, "Oh, he answered that question. He's answered that question." So, again, maybe a last parting word before we close out, Andrew.
I so appreciate that. Thank you so much, Joyce. And I appreciate everybody being here, right? Because the whole point, like I said in the beginning, is you don't have to be unsafe to find ways to feel safer. And feeling safer just notches down the stress of the holidays. We're all jacked up on stress, and we're all jacked up on schedule, and we're all jacked up on relationships that are great or they're not, or whatever. So just any way that you can peel away some stress, take advantage of those opportunities. Think about it ahead of time. Make sure that you know that even in a bad situation, you know how to handle it.
And then one last thing, you mentioned about candles. And candles right now, everybody wants that candle aroma, that candle smell, that mood lighting, as they say. And I'm glad you mentioned the statement about if you have to leave the room, put the candle out.
Mhm.
And when you come back in the room, put it back on again. And I know a lot of times we as, members here in the Zoom room, we just want to make sure that it's looking nice, but you don't think about blowing it out and cutting it back on again. So I'm so glad that you highlighted that one and you mentioned that one again. I appreciate that one. Back to you, Jacqueline.
Okay. Thank you, Joyce, and thank you, Andrew and Rachel. And the thing about the lights was really helpful to me because I'm someone who probably has lights from 20 years ago that, oh, these are great. I like these. So I will take that to heart. So thank everyone. Thank you both. So join us next month for Tea and Coffee on Tuesday, January 13th, for our first program of 2026. We'll be joined by an expert from OATS, Older Adults Technology Services, to talk about AI and disinformation. That will be an interesting one. In that workshop, we'll explore how AI is used to create convincing deepfakes and clone voices. And we'll review best practices for evaluating information and explore tech tools that can help identify content created with AI. And if you would like to view previous programs or learn more about the Tea and Coffee Tuesday monthly series, check out the link that has been placed in the chat. Again, thank you so much to Andrew and Rachel for today's timely, excellent presentation. And thank you to our Tea and Coffee Tuesday volunteers, Haresh, Connie, Joyce, Sarita, and Vince, as well as our AARP staff. And of course, thank you all for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed today's presentation. I am your AARP volunteer host, Jacqueline. This concludes today's program. Thank you. Have a great and safe holiday season, and I look forward to seeing you in 2026. Thank you. That concludes our program.